You'd think the moment an alien ship's engine came crashing down would involve a lot more screaming. But no, the only sound in the maintenance bay was an eerie hum as the anti-grav unit sputtered and failed, sending several tons of alien technology slamming into the deck. "Everyone clear!" shouted Rylan Ash, the human engineer who somehow always ended up in the middle of alien disasters. Around him, the crew of the ship, an assortment of aliens with scales, fur, and even bioluminescent skin, scattered like startled pigeons. Rylan ran toward the chaos, not away from it, because of course he did. "That thing weighs more than my last ship," barked Zarna, a towering reptilian alien whose strength was only matched by his ego. "We'll need the industrial lifts. It'll take days." Rylan didn't stop moving, already sizing up the situation. Days. "We've got hours before this ship gets fried in orbit if we don't fix the coolant system." "Hours?" Zarna hissed, his frills puffing in irritation. "You humans don't understand limits. This engine is immovable without proper equipment." Rylan didn't answer immediately. He crouched by the engine, running his gloved hand along its massive frame. The thing was a beast, gleaming alien alloys with intricate energy conduits that pulsed faintly. It was the heart of the ship, and without it, they were dead in space. He straightened, rubbing the back of his neck. "So, what if we just carry it?" There was silence. For a long moment, it was as if the entire maintenance bay had frozen in time. Then Zarna threw back his head and let out a deep, guttural laugh, echoed by several other crew members. "Carry it?" Zarna repeated, his laughter tapering into a disbelieving hiss. "Human, that engine weighs—" "About 5 tons, Rylan interrupted, his tone unnervingly casual. "Yeah, I noticed." "You can't be serious," muttered Velia, a gelatinous alien whose translucent form wobbled with uncertainty. "Your species barely qualifies as mid-tier in strength metrics. Even our exosuits struggle with that kind of weight." "Maybe where you're from," Rylan said, rolling his shoulders. "But back on Earth, we don't always have fancy suits or zero-gravity rigs. Sometimes you just have to get creative." Zarna's frills flattened against his head as he crossed his massive arms. "This is absurd. Even with your primitive tools, the biological strain alone would be catastrophic." Rylan smirked. "Guess there's only one way to find out." He reached for a set of industrial-grade straps designed for smaller repairs. The aliens watched, first with confusion, then growing alarm as Rylan looped the straps around the engine's core, cinching them tight across his chest and shoulders. "You're going to injure yourself," Velia protested, her gelatinous form rippling with concern. "This is not a species pride competition." "Relax," Rylan said, adjusting the straps. "I've done worse. Ever haul a couch up 5 flights of stairs because your buddy thought it would totally fit in his apartment?" None of the aliens understood the reference, but the tone was clear. Rylan wasn't backing down. The maintenance bay fell silent as Rylan braced himself, his boots planted firmly against the metal deck. He let out a long breath, then pulled. The straps groaned under the strain, and for a moment, nothing happened. Zarna smirked, clearly expecting failure. But then the engine shifted. Barely an inch, but it shifted. Rylan's muscles screamed in protest as he gritted his teeth and pulled harder. Slowly, impossibly, the massive engine began to lift. The onlooking aliens stared, their disbelief morphing into something closer to awe. "Impossible," Zarna muttered, his glowing eyes wide. Rylan managed a breathless laugh, sweat already beading on his forehead. "This isn't even the heaviest thing. I've moved." The engine lifted higher, wobbling precariously as Rylan adjusted his grip. He took a step forward, then another, the sound of his boots scraping against the deck echoing in the stunned silence. "This is not physically possible," Velia said, her voice trembling. "His skeletal structure should collapse. His internal systems should—" "Be quiet and let the human work," snapped Zarna, who was now watching with a mix of grudging respect and sheer disbelief. With every step, Rylan felt like his body might give out. His muscles burned, his vision blurred at the edges, and his heart pounded like a war drum. But he kept moving, one agonizing step at a time, He wasn't just carrying the engine, he was carrying Earth's reputation. The aliens, for all their advanced tech and superior biology, had never understood the human capacity for sheer, stubborn determination. They were learning now. Every muscle in Rylan's body screamed as he took another step forward, the massive engine strapped to his back swaying precariously with each movement. The alien crew, who moments ago had laughed at his plan, now stood in stunned silence. The once condescending Zana had gone completely still, his frills flattened as if in shock. "Still think, I need an exosuit." Rylan grunted, his voice strained but laced with defiance. Zana's jaw twitched, but he said nothing. Velia, the gelatinous alien, rippled anxiously. "Human, you're going to rupture your internal structures. Your cardiovascular system isn't designed for—" "Not helping," Rylan cut her off, pausing to adjust his grip on the straps. His legs wobbled, but he refused to falter. "I've got one rule. Back on Earth. Never let gravity win." "Your gravity is insane," Velia shot back, but she fell silent when Rylan shifted forward again. As Rylan hauled the engine, his mind flashed to moments back home, hauling bags of cement during summer construction jobs, lugging furniture for friends who always underestimated the size of their doorways, and dragging his brother out of a ditch after his infamous "watch this" moment. It wasn't just about strength, it was about grit, determination, the refusal to give up, even when everything in your body screamed to stop. That was what Earth taught him. Rylan's steps became steadier, his breathing a deep, rhythmic pattern that matched the pounding of his heart. The engine was still impossibly heavy, but he adjusted, finding a rhythm that kept him moving forward. Each step sent a faint tremor through the deck, echoing like a drumbeat. Zana finally spoke, his voice tinged with awe. "This defies all logic. Your biology—" "Maybe your logic needs an upgrade," Rylan interrupted, forcing a grin through gritted teeth. "Earth logic says, keep going." The crowd of aliens watching him grew larger as more crew members filtered into the bay. Word had spread quickly. There was a human doing the impossible. Some whispered nervously, others watched with wide eyes, and a few even began to cheer, their disbelief morphing into admiration. Just when it seemed like Rylan might collapse, something unexpected happened. One of the alien engineers, a small insect-like creature named Tilka, scurried forward. "You can't do this alone," she said, her voice chirping with urgency. "We'll help." Tilka grabbed a support beam and helped steady the swaying engine. Another engineer, a tall, furry alien with glowing eyes, joined in, taking hold of the straps to relieve some of the weight. Rylan gave a weak laugh, his knees trembling. "About time. You figured out teamwork." "This doesn't make sense," Velia muttered as she joined in, her gelatinous form stretching to support part of the load. "But if the human can do it, we can too." With their combined efforts, the engine began to move more smoothly. It wasn't just Rylan's strength now. It was his determination that had inspired the others to act. After what felt like an eternity, the group reached the engine's new position. With careful precision, they maneuvered it into place and locked it into its support rig. As the locking mechanisms engaged with a satisfying clunk, Rylan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He stumbled backward, nearly collapsing, but Zana caught him before he hit the deck. The towering alien looked down at him with an expression that was equal parts disbelief and respect. "You are an anomaly," Zana said. "No species should be capable of what you just did." Rylan grinned weakly, his entire body drenched in sweat. "Yeah, well, humans are full of surprises." As the crew dispersed, murmuring about what they had just witnessed, Rylan leaned against the wall, catching his breath. The ship's captain, a stately alien with silver scales, approached him. "You've done more than move an engine today, human," the captain said. "You've shifted how the galaxy sees your kind." Rylan shrugged, wincing at the movement. "I didn't do it for the galaxy. I did it because sitting around wasn't an option." The captain's silver eyes gleamed. "Perhaps that is why your kind will always be underestimated, and why you will always rise above." Rylan sat on a makeshift bench in the corner of the maintenance bay, a cold hydration packet pressed against his forehead. Every muscle in his body screamed in protest, and he was fairly sure his spine had temporarily filed a formal complaint. But despite the pain, he couldn't help but grin. "Feeling heroic?" Velia asked as she hovered nearby, her translucent form rippling in agitation. "Feeling sore," Rylan muttered, "but worth it." Zana approached, his frills fluttering in a mix of irritation and admiration. "You realize what you just did has probably broken every interspecies safety regulation." "Did I die?" Rylan asked, raising an eyebrow. "No," Zana admitted. "Then it's fine." Within hours, word had spread through the shipyard like wildfire. Aliens from every corner came to gawk at the human who had supposedly lifted a multi-ton engine without exosuit assistance. "I heard he did it while injured," one whispered as they passed by. "Did you see him afterward? Not even a single broken bone." "They say humans have hidden biological reserves they only tap into when they're desperate." Rylan sighed as he overheard the comments. "Well, that's a new one," he muttered. "Hidden reserves? What, like a backup fuel tank?" "It's what they believe now," Velia said with a shrug. "Your little stunt made you a legend." "Great," Rylan groaned. "Just what I needed." The comm station at the edge of the bay chimed, and the silver-scaled captain strode over to answer it. A holographic image of a crystalline council elder appeared, their shimmering surface vibrating faintly. "We have heard of the humans' feat," the elder said, their tone somewhere between disbelief and cautious respect. "The Galactic Council would like to inquire further about human biological capabilities." The captain cast a glance toward Rylan, who waved weakly from his bench. "Our human crew member is recovering but available to answer any questions." The elder's crystalline edges vibrated more rapidly. "We will convene a formal session. The council requests his presence." Rylan groaned. "Formal session? This can't be good." "It's a compliment," Velia said, amused. "Sort of." "Yeah," Rylan muttered. "Compliments that involve formal sessions usually end in lectures." 2 days later, Rylan found himself aboard a sleek diplomatic shuttle en route to the Galactic Council's headquarters. The building loomed like a massive crystalline dome suspended in space, reflecting the light of distant stars in a kaleidoscope of colors. As he disembarked, alien delegates from dozens of species stared at him with open curiosity. It was like walking into a room full of people who had all heard the same unbelievable rumor and were desperate to see if it was true. "You sure about this?" Rylan asked the silver-scaled captain, who had accompanied him. "No," the captain replied honestly. "But you are here, so let's proceed." Inside the grand chamber, Rylan stood at a central podium, while the delegates sat in elevated seats, arranged in a circular formation. The crystalline elder presided over the meeting, their form shimmering like a living prism. "Human Rylan Ash," the elder intoned, "we have received reports of your unusual feat aboard the Silver Zenith. Is it true that you moved an alien engine unaided?" "Yes," Rylan said simply. A collective murmur spread through the chamber, accompanied by the faint hum of translators processing his words. The Valrexian delegate, Draxon, a hulking reptilian with dark emerald scales, leaned forward. "How? Your species is known for ingenuity, not physical prowess." "Yeah," Rylan said, "but back on Earth, we've got a saying, work smarter, not harder. But when that doesn't work, sometimes you just have to work harder." More murmurs rippled through the room. "That engine weighs more than any individual from our strongest species could manage," Draxon said. "Your biology should not allow it." Rylan shrugged. "Ever seen humans carry their own body weight in a marathon? Or haul furniture up 3 flights of stairs with one friend who doesn't know how to lift?" Silence. "It's not about muscle mass," Rylan added. "It's about stubbornness. Humans, well, we just don't like giving up." The elder considered this for a moment. "Stubbornness. It's kind of our superpower," Rylan said with a smirk. Rylan stood at the podium, still trying to shake off the soreness from his earlier feat as the Galactic Council descended into animated chaos. Delegates of various species debated the implications of his actions, their voices a blend of clicks, hums, and melodic tones. "The human's feat cannot be a mere fluke," declared an insectoid delegate, their translucent wings flickering. "It defies every known biological principle." "Or perhaps humans have evolved beyond what our data suggests," countered a gelatinous representative, their body pulsing with iridescent ripples. "We must reassess their physiology." Draxon, the Valrexian delegate, remained skeptical, his emerald scales glinting under the chamber's bright lights. "This changes nothing. One anomaly does not redefine an entire species. Their ingenuity remains their strength, not their physicality." The chamber doors slid open, revealing a familiar figure. Dr. Asha Menon, Earth's premier biologist and resident expert on terrifying creatures. She strode confidently into the room, carrying a sleek tablet and wearing a smile that suggested she was about to turn the council's debate on its head. "Sorry I'm late," she said, her voice carrying an air of mischief. "Traffic was murder, or, galactic bureaucracy." Rylan groaned. "You couldn't let me have this one moment, could you?" "Absolutely not," Asha replied, taking a spot beside him at the podium. "Now, let's clear up a few misconceptions about human biology, shall we?" Asha tapped her tablet, projecting a holographic image of a human skeletal structure, overlaid with muscle density and endurance metrics. "You see," she began, addressing the delegates, "humans may not be the strongest species in raw power, but we've got something unique: adaptability." The hologram shifted, showing a runner crossing a finish line, a weightlifter hoisting a barbell, and a rock climber scaling a sheer cliff. "Our bodies are designed to endure. Extreme temperatures, long distances, even injuries. Where most species rely on specialized traits, humans are generalists. We don't excel at one thing. We excel at surviving." The chamber fell silent, the delegates absorbing her words. As Asha's presentation continued, the ripple effect of Rylan's actions became evident. Delegates began whispering to their aides, their bioluminescent translators flickering. Some discussed potential alliances with Earth, while others considered how this new perspective on humanity might shift galactic power dynamics. "We underestimated them," said one crystalline delegate, their shimmering edges dimming in embarrassment. "Their strength is not in their bodies, it is in their will." "And their ingenuity," another added. "No other species would think to lift a starship engine without assistance." The council elder finally raised a glowing hand, calling for order. "In light of these revelations," they said, their crystalline voice resonating through the chamber, "it is clear that humanity possesses qualities we have overlooked. Their ingenuity, resilience, and, yes, their stubbornness make them a formidable species." Draxon grumbled but remained silent, his earlier skepticism visibly shaken. "Effective immediately," the elder continued, "Earth will be elevated to a higher tier within the Galactic Alliance, recognizing their unique capabilities." As the delegates murmured in agreement, Rylan leaned toward Asha and whispered, "So, does this mean we get free snacks at council meetings now?" Asha rolled her eyes. "You just carried a 5-ton engine on your back, and that's what you're thinking about." "Hey," Rylan said with a grin, "priorities." As the session adjourned, Rylan noticed the change in how aliens regarded him. Where there had once been dismissive glances, there was now a mix of respect, curiosity, and, in some cases, outright awe. Velia approached, her gelatinous form trembling slightly. "Your actions today were extraordinary," she said. "I believe we have much to learn from your species." "Start with the basics," Rylan replied. "Step 1. Never bet against human stubbornness." The Galactic Council chamber emptied slowly, the murmurs of alien delegates echoing as they debated the revelations about humanity. Rylan slumped into a chair at the edge of the hall, exhausted but quietly triumphant. Asha Menon stood beside him, scrolling through her tablet, with the smug satisfaction of someone who'd just aced a test they didn't study for. "You're really milking this moment, aren't you?" Rylan asked, shooting her a tired grin. "Absolutely," Asha replied. "Do you know how rare it is to see an entire council of superior aliens collectively realize they underestimated us? I'm going to frame this memory." Rylan chuckled but winced as his sore muscles protested. "Remind me to stretch before hauling engines next time." The crystalline elder returned, their glowing form shimmering with authority. "Human Rylan Ash," they began, their voice resonating like a soft chime. "Your actions have compelled the Galactic Council to re-evaluate humanity's classification within the Alliance. Effective immediately, Earth will be recognized as a Tier 1 adaptability species." Rylan frowned. "Tier 1 what now?" "It's a fancy way of saying we're scary and useful," Asha translated with a smirk. "Congratulations, you're officially a galactic legend." The Elder continued. "Furthermore, the Council has agreed to allocate resources for Earth to enhance its defensive and research capabilities, as your species has proven a valuable asset." Translation: "They want to keep an eye on us," Rylan muttered. As Rylan and Asha prepared to leave, a towering insectoid delegate with shimmering green wings approached. "Human Rylan," they said, their voice clicking softly. "I represent the Xyrath Coalition. We would like to offer you a position as an honorary advisor on our interstellar engineering board." Rylan blinked. "Advisor?" "Me." "You carried a starship engine," the insectoid replied matter-of-factly. "Your ingenuity and determination are unparalleled. We believe you could bring valuable insights to our projects." Rylan scratched the back of his neck, glancing at Asha. "What do you think?" "I think it's about time someone paid you for all the nonsense you go through," she said. Later, aboard the shuttle back to the shipyard, Rylan stared out the window at the swirling stars. He thought about how close he'd come to giving up when he lifted that engine, about the pain, the exhaustion, and the sheer stubbornness that had kept him moving. "You know," he said, breaking the silence, "I didn't do it to prove anything. I just couldn't sit there and watch everyone panic while we wasted time." "That's exactly why it worked," Asha replied. "Humans don't do things to look good. We do them because someone has to." Rylan smirked. "And here I thought I was just being reckless." "That too," Asha said, laughing. Back at the shipyard, the alien crew now treated Rylan with a mix of reverence and curiosity. Zarna, the previously dismissive reptilian engineer, approached him cautiously. "Human," Zarna began, his tone uncharacteristically respectful. "I underestimated your kind. You have earned my respect." "Thanks, Zarna," Rylan said, clapping the towering alien on the arm. "Maybe next time you'll listen when I have a crazy idea." "Perhaps," Zarna admitted, his frills flattening in what passed for a sheepish gesture. Over the following weeks, news of Rylan's feat spread across the galaxy. Alien research teams studied human physiology with renewed interest, while Council protocols began factoring in human ingenuity and adaptability. Earth was no longer seen as the naive newcomer. It was now a species to be reckoned with. Delegates from various species visited Earth, seeking alliances and trade agreements. The phrase, "never underestimate a human," became a popular saying in interstellar circles, much to Asha's amusement. As Rylan loaded his tools back into the maintenance bay one quiet evening, Velia approached him, her gelatinous form glowing faintly. "Do all humans possess your abilities?" she asked hesitantly. Rylan laughed, shaking his head. "Not all of us know, but if you give us enough coffee and a challenge, well, let's just say we get things done." A week later, Rylan received a package from the Galactic Council, a ceremonial medal engraved with the words, "For demonstrating the impossible with determination and strength." Attached was a note from the crystalline elder. "We've recalculated. Your species is unique. Please do not surprise us again." Rylan pinned the medal to the wall of the maintenance bay, grinning as Asha walked in. "What's that?" she asked. "Proof that humans are officially the galaxy's most stubborn species," Rylan replied. and I wouldn't have it any other way.